Welcome to Make Your Big Impact. I am your host, Angel Tuccy, also known as the Book Angel, and this is the show for authors, speakers, and thought leaders who know their story isn't just meaningful, but it's meant to move people, create influence, and drive real results. And in today's episode is one of my favorite formats because we're hosting a roundtable conversation with powerful voices who have each taken their message and turned it into impact in their own unique way. And they're about to share what's really working for them and what happens when you're ready to step into visibility, authority, and leadership. So let me introduce today's panelists. First, we have Bryce Batts, co-CEO of Career Collective, AEC talent strategist, and host of the very popular Wine After Work podcast. She's also the best-selling author of The Career Architect, and with nearly 2 decades of experience placing and advising thousands of professionals, she now works directly with architecture, engineering, and construction firms, design smarter hiring and retention systems so that they can scale without burning out their teams or leaders. And joining us as well is Dr. Drina Freed. She started her career as a dental hygienist, moved into teaching first and third grades before becoming a school psychologist for 32 years. She has almost 3 decades in private practice in educational psychology, marriage and family child counseling. And in 2023, at the age of 80, after publishing the second edition of her Amazon bestseller, End Suicide and Homicide and the Harm in Between, she became the authority on prevention of suicide and homicide. And she's now speaking as a licensed abundance and resilience coach. And of course, you have me, Angel Tuccy, author of Authorlicity, where I show authors how to become the obvious choice in your industry, creating ongoing publicity and new revenue streams with a book in one hand and a guest microphone in the other. And on today's episode, you're going to hear different perspectives, but one shared mission: making a bigger impact with the message they were called to share. Before we dive in, I would love for each of you to share just in one sentence the impact you are passionate about making right now. And Miss Bryce, since I started with you, I'm going to have you start. What's the most important thing that's on your mind right now? What's the thing you're most
Oh,
passionate about?
yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me here. I feel like most of what I do and what I'm really passionate about is designing your career around your vision and values and making sure that alignment is there. We spend so much time at work every day. You want to do something that lights you up and doesn't hold you hostage. And so that's what the book and my recruiting and consulting and podcasts are all about.
I love it. I love it. Well, we just had Michelle was able to pop back in. I wasn't sure if she was going to be able to join us today, but we also have Michelle Passoff. She is the author of Lighten Up, Free Yourself from Clutter, a book about how cleaning conventional clutter like papers, clothes, and other stuff is a little known and underused life management tool to get obstructions out of the way or reaching your dreams and desires. And now she is addressing the next level of clutter in her latest book for baby boomers called Decluttering 55 Plus Wisdoms to Create a Legacy, Not a Mess. Michelle, we're glad you're able to join us today. How are you? Oh, you are muted, my friend.
Welcome to myself. I,
I'm glad
I
you're
I
I'm glad
got
you're here, Michelle.
kicked off by the internet, but here I am.
I'm so glad, right? She was there in the green room and then she disappeared and I wasn't sure if she was going to make it back. So in just a minute, Michelle, I'm going to have you just answer the question in one sentence, the impact you're most passionate about making right now. But before you, we're going to go to Dr. Drina. Drina, what are you most passionate about right now? The work
Well,
you're doing right now.
empowering youth to stand strong. I spent the last year on the auspices of Bill Walsh suggested we do 12 modules for teenagers because out of 1,000 teenagers, 7 die by suicide. And so this is to it's horrible, yes. Why it happens is not what I'm going to talk about. This program is to build confidence, self-esteem, teaching them how to handle bullying situations, which often has led to hating themselves because they don't know what to do, and more, but that's certainly more than one sentence, so I'll wait.
I know, I know. She is on a mission to help our youth stop harming themselves and others. And we'll talk about your Brave program for sure, Drina, while we're here. All right, Michelle, how about you? What is the thing you're most passionate about right now?
Well, I'm passionate about people living the life without obstructions to accomplish whatever it is they want. And I think, I'm at the other end of the spectrum, Dr. Drina, is I'm working with people who are over the age of 55 and have every opportunity not to live the retirement that their parents did, but to get out, get up, get going, get things done, and think beyond what outside the box about what's possible as they age.
I love what all three of you are doing, right? Here's seemingly three random guests, all in different genres, reaching a different audience, but you're all just making a really powerful impact, right? To the niche, right? That you are serving. I love how you have it just completely, just really dialed in. And I think that's one of the things as entrepreneurs, rather than what do we call the spray and pray. And I help everybody, anybody who can breathe, right? Who can fog a mirror, but you have it, all three of you, completely dialed in on who your target audience is and who you were meant to serve. And I love that. So, Bryce, we're going to come back to you. What was the moment that you realized that what you do isn't just for you, but something that you were meant to share publicly and out into the world, take it out to the masses?
Yeah, I feel like I've held this tension for a long time of what employers want and what employees want when have been doing recruiting. And a lot of times they're not aligned. And then talking to so many women on my podcast and hearing how their careers are not linear, that's when I knew it wasn't just an industry problem, but there's so many women across the world who are wildly capable but quietly unhappy. And it might be the golden handcuffs, or that they just think, why me? Who am I to want something better than what I have right now? And so I saw this pattern over and over again across different firms, different roles, in different cities. So I feel like that pivotal moment came when I realized these weren't isolated career problems, but more system problems. So I could help both companies with these and individuals who are looking for new positions and trying to figure out what they wanted to do in life, help them as well.
You've been in this space for decades, which is not
Yeah.
possible, right? She had to have started when she was in middle school or maybe even elementary school, right? But I love that you said wildly capable.
Hmm.
But then you said quietly something that was so good, I didn't write it down.
Oh, quietly unhappy.
Quietly unhappy,
Yeah.
right? I think
We just keep going, keep your head down. And then if you get let go from one job, you just move quietly and quickly move to the next instead of taking time to really figure out what you want to do and what lights you up and what makes sense for that phase of life. Because there are different seasons and our values change and what we want changes.
it is amazing, the days of you have one career, right? You go to work, you pick one career path, and you stay on it. I remember when my daughters were going to high school, they had like a little pep assembly thing for the parents, and they had said like most of them are going to have multiple careers in their lifetime, and many of them are going to be in jobs that aren't even around right now.
Yeah,
Like we think about some of the jobs that are now. They didn't exist 20 years ago. So of course, right, as the landscape changes, so do our needs get to change as well.
so true. And with AI and all the new things, it
Yeah,
will keep changing.
right. And when did you start your podcast?
I started it at 2021, so going on 5 years now.
Okay. Right. And what an impact that has made. I think that even as I'm scrolling through Facebook, right, and social media, you see all the wildly capable but quietly unhappy folks. Bryce,
Yeah.
because I don't want to wait till the end. We'll share it again at the end as well. But how do people follow you and plug into your world?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I'm always on LinkedIn, Bryce Batts, so I'd love to connect with people there if they want to message me. I'm pretty good about checking my messages. And then two websites, My Career Collective, that is the company I co-founded, that we do recruiting. And then brycebats.co, which is a little bit more about the book and podcast and my consulting to help companies with talent strategy.
Love that.
And I'm on Instagram too, but that's more fun stuff. Also my name.
mycareercollective.co.
Uh-huh.
and brycebatts.com.
.co.
Oh, .co. You know what? I
Uh-huh.
wrote .co, but then I thought, oh, I must
You
have
were
just,
second guessing yourself.
I did, right? I wrote it right. Oh,
Well, you know
great.
what? There's one other Bryce Batts that I have found, and he already had the website, so I'm .co.
Well, now, right, they've got all these new things, right, where you can own like all these,
Yeah,
brycebats.podcast, TV, all the things.
I
So
know.
okay, so I should trust myself when I write. I didn't just stop writing mid sentence. All right, how about you, Drina? What was the moment that you realized, like you wrote this book years ago about ending harm and ending suicide. What was what was that pivotal moment that you realized that you had something to share that was just bigger than you, but you needed to take it to the world?
Back in 1985, I switched from elementary school psychologist up to a high school, and it was sent to me by a counselor, a girl who lost her boyfriend. And I knew from my grandmother, she said, Drina, you can do anything except don't hurt yourself and anybody else. So I presented that to this girl, and I told her that, there'll be more, that you're young. Most people don't really get to their main life stuff until they're in their 30s, and then their best decade is until their 60s. I told her all these things, and then I thought she was ready to go back to class. So she went back to class, and 2 months later, her counselor, who sent her to me, said, I got to tell you that I'll just call her Sherry, that Sherry asked her teacher if she could see me again. And the teacher said, "Oh, I'm sorry, but she's really, really busy testing students, with special ed kind of stuff." And then what happened just brought tears to everybody's eyes. She was such a sweetheart, this girl. She asked her teacher aide, "Well, I know it's not right to hurt other people, but what I do to myself is my own business, isn't it?" And the teacher said yes. And so she went home that night. She took her father's gun and she shot herself and killed herself. It was horrible. And I knew there must be a better way. Well, I didn't say to her, I knew about not hurting yourself and others being a pivotal foundational thing. And it's in the Brave program that I'm, touting now. And I didn't say, are you willing to take this rule forever in your life and live out your life completely? I didn't say that. I didn't know to say that. I was young in my school psychology career, and besides, I was winging it as I went along because there wasn't much training back then. So that led me to that second part. And from then on, whenever I asked anybody if they were willing to take a rule not to hurt themselves and others, and we would discuss it. If they weren't willing, we took it to its completion. And then I asked that final question. That was the pivotal moment. Are you willing to keep it? And if not, I knew we needed to get to more serious and perhaps uh, calling in the maybe medication, but I really was not for medication. I wanted them to to live life as natural as possible.
What a I mean, this is one of those conversations, right, that you don't just normally have, right, at a cocktail party, right? Like it just doesn't come up, but it is so prevalent right now. And the fact that you've taken this on, Adrena, to bring this message into schools and to address it head on, face on, right? To have the tough conversations and really to have them with our youth, teaching teachers and parents how to have these conversations is you've she's taken up the mantle, right? And now you've launched a brand new program called the Brave program, that she talked about bringing that into schools. And I think right now you're looking for people who have connections with schools that they can help bring that message to those schools. Is that correct?
Mostly, yes. And parents individually or homeschooling people too can use its program. It will develop leadership skills, promote respect and kindness because of the bullying situations that they now know how to handle after they go through the program. And it creates a safe and supportive environment for everybody, knowing that suicide is dying by suicide is very, very, very unlikely. I'd like to say 100%, but nothing's 100%. And yes, and can I say they can learn more at the www.thebraveprogram.com?
Yes, you can say that. You can learn more at thebraveprogram.com. She's in her 80s. She's about to turn 83, and she's out here fighting for our youth. And I just think that's really beautiful, Drina. Thebraveprogram.com. They can sign up, they can learn more, and they can share it with parents and teachers and caregivers in schools. Yes, you may say that.
Yeah, I'd like to. The thing about it, the difference is I learned from the CDC, you got to be proactive. You got to stop problems before they occur. And that's my intention.
I love that. I love that. Gene, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. Michelle, how about you? Right? Like serving the 55 plus, helping them get rid of clutter. Like what was the moment you knew like this is the thing that I need to share with others, that it wasn't just for you, but for others?
Well, I had morphed from conventional clutter, papers, clothes, and other stuff. I had been around the world and back across the US and back in people's attics, garages, and basements, working with them to let go of what they didn't want and need and use. And it's the easiest place to do that is to get your hands on your physical stuff. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually is a little more challenging. So we went for the easy stuff first. And around um, in the early 2000s, after 9/11, I found that people weren't as gung-ho as they used to be around in my worlds, because they wanted to hold on to their stuff for security. There was a little certainty after 9/11. And at that time, I actually opened an estate sale company. And my husband and I started selling people's houses and everything in it. And we did that for about 14 years. And then during COVID, another milestone moment in our society, we sold it. And at a certain point, my husband's Belgian, and we went over to Belgium, and we spent a month there visiting with family and friends. And when I came back, I just sat at my desk and I said, "Oh, 55 plus. I'm going to write a book on 55 plus." And the next day, I got a call from a senior center out of the blue, out of nowhere in California, inviting me to come and speak to their members. And I said, that must be a sign that this is the right choice, because it just seemingly randomly got this call.
Seemingly random, right? How often do we have these seemingly random? And I always like to say the miracle's already in place, right? Like we just have to step into it. And so as soon as you were ready, right, here comes this phone call, this invitation to say, Michelle,
Yeah, I
we've
said
made
that
a space for
it
you.
must be the right thing. And then what I found out is, or at least this is what people kept telling me, is it used to be that you wrote a book and then you promoted your book. And people were telling me, no, you have to build the audience first, and then you have the audience that will receive your book. And so I said, well, what am I going to do to build my audience? So I said, oh, I'll do a podcast. So I started Decluttering 55 Plus with Michelle Passoff, which is my weekly podcast, talking to experts, authorities, geeks, and everyday people about next level clutter, which is anything from health and fitness and eating to memoir writing and social relationships, deciding where you're going to live and what you're going to do in retirement, and financial and legal matters, and even final arrangements. Like these are things that, folks who are in the baby boomer generation, and even other folks, but okay, I'm speaking to the baby boomers, want to sweep under the carpet and put it off another day or forever. And my mission is to say, take it into the light of day, get into action, get busy, get things done. And you won't roll over and die if you do all of this stuff, but you'll invigorate your life and leave a legacy, not a mess. So I started doing that. And I love the podcast, actually. I can't wait until my book is finished. It will be this year. I did do an illustrated book of wisdoms called Decluttering 55 Plus Wisdoms to Create a Legacy, Not a Mess. And that's available on layitflat.com and Amazon. And it prompts you to take action and initiative. And Dr. Drina, like you were saying, you have to take initiative at any age to get things done in your life. And that's what um, I'm aiming to do. That's my big goal is to have people, get off their recliners, get into action, get busy, get these things done, and watch and see what opens up in your life because it always does. And
It
exactly
always
the right thing comes into the empty space you create.
All right. Yeah, because you're making space for something fresh and new and clean and decluttered. And I heard
If people want to plug into that conversation, they can go to www.decluttering55plus.com, sign up on my Let's Connect button. You can go there and you could see a couple of episodes of the podcast. So if you want to follow the podcast, you can tune in and see like who's talking this week. It's always somebody interesting. Always somebody interesting. I love it. And so will everybody out there listening. And it'll inform you, it'll tell you resources, it'll inspire you. And I myself am surprised by what people get out of it. I teach classes at 55 plus communities and continuing education programs. And I myself, one of the great pleasures for me has been that I'm surprised by what people get out of opening up this conversation. So it's a lot of fun.
I bet it is. I love that Drina said that the 60s is our best decade. I just heard a song on the radio the other day, and it's not a new song, but it's talking about it's a country song, something about the next my next 30 years. And
Yeah.
my husband's in his 60s. I'm like, baby, we still have like your next 30 years. Like I really think like there's gonna be all this good stuff. But I can imagine there's a lot of people in my world that decluttering55plus.com, go there, decluttering55plus.com and check it out because these are those conversations and these are
Yeah,
those
sign up for the on the Let's Connect button so that you could, make a choice. Do you want to listen this week? Do you want to contribute something this week? But get in on the conversation and build the community.
I love it. All right, so Michelle, looking back, what would you say is one action that either accelerated your success or created the momentum that you needed, and why did it work?
Well, I realized when I started getting my business Lighten Up Free Yourself from Clutter, my clutter consulting, I would go in and help people address all that stuff. I realized that I couldn't I couldn't get to everybody by going door to door. So I decided to write a book and teach classes. It was also less expensive to teach a class. And one day I got a call from one of my students at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going like, "Can't you call it 9:01?" That's when my day starts, my professional day. And she goes, "Well, I'm a reporter for the New York Times." So then, of course, I got very alert and I said, "Well, how can I help you?" And she was writing an article about what I was doing because I do it from not so much to be neat and tidy, but to open space in your life for the unimaginable, what you didn't even know was possible for yourself. And the day she wrote that article, the very morning the New York Times came out with an article about what I was doing, I got a literary agent and a publisher. So my first book really brought me around the world and back talking about conventional clutter. And then over the course of my having an estate sale company for 14 years, I saw, you know, a lot about people who were aging, because a lot of people whose houses we would liquidate were people who had passed away and dealing with their families that were left with all of this mess. So that's how I got inspired to address the special needs of 55 plus. And that takes me into a whole other whole other world and a whole other new level of what it means to be cluttered. And the idea is to be free, to be without obstruction in your life. And that's my aim, and at every level.
Okay, so note to self, right? If the New York Times calls you at 8 o'clock in the morning, we take that call and we rally.
You never know.
Um, right? You just and visibility and publicity always works. I always encourage my clients, we're borrowing other people's audiences, right? Go and get your message out in front of in front of other people. Don't just talk to the same people over and over again. So I love that that worked for you, Michelle. And then how many doors that opened. And isn't that, it's like a ripple, like throwing a rock in the thing and you one action creates another action, which creates another action. And then you've got next thing you know, here she is,
Yeah,
this
you don't sit around when you're a kid and go, "Oh man, what am I going to do when I grow up?" Oh, I know. I'll go into people's attics and basements and get the,
and clean
you
up
know,
their junk. But what an
yeah,
impact, right? And
yeah,
how
no, it's been a lot of fun and a wonderful journey, and it's never the possibilities never ending. I had a plumber come once, and he actually we had had him for 20 years, and he was starting to kind of wind down and work a little less and move into retirement. And what he did was he started to study the classic violin. Like, how many plumbers study
Mm.
the classic violin? Like, isn't that fantastic? Like you were saying to your husband, like, yeah, you have the next 30 years ahead of you. We have an Airbnb and we had a guest the other day. She was 86 years old and she was from Japan. She flew 14 hours to bring athletes from Japan over to a country club where they train Olympians in our area. And this woman was 86 years old. She says, "What am I going to do? Stay home and let a pacemaker operate by pacemaker or something." So, I like to think
I know we are
go
just like
outside the box.
spring chickens, right? Right, really. So take care of yourselves because we got a lot of years in us. How about you, Bryce? What was one action that most accelerated your success or created the momentum, and why did it work?
Yeah, I think everybody has imposter syndrome and it can be so scary to do big things. But I think for me, it started even in high school, going to college. I wanted to try out for our NC State cheer team and dance team. And I, put in the work, tried out, made the team. And of course, that was a long time ago. But I say that because I do think throughout life, you have to put yourself out there and there will always be curveballs, thinking back to recruiting, which Michelle, also, no one says when I grow up, I want to be a recruiter one day. You just kind of fall into it. But I was recruiting in 2008 when, the economy basically shut down and you just have to figure out how to pivot. And then I opened a business after that when I had my oldest daughter, took a break from recruiting for a bit, then went back to recruiting. Um, and so really, and then, 2020 COVID hit and figured out then I wanted to start Career Collective. My business partner and I, we left the company we were working for and started this business. And so again, just taking that leap of faith and taking the next step and what I thought was best and then started the podcast and that allowed me to meet so many incredible women and then I was able to weave those stories into the book and that has opened additional doors for me. So I think it's just continuing to put one foot in front of the other no matter how scared you are, no matter the fear, the imposter syndrome, and just keep putting yourself out there.
I think,
I
when you
love what you said, Bryce, about pivoting. I think that's going to be a lead headline for the coming years
Mhm.
is to have that ability to be able to step into new horizons. And, without clutter, without anything in the way, you could be more flexible to do that. But I think as we see the onslaught of AI, you're going to see a changing world and pivot we must.
pivot,
Yeah, I was talking to a woman today and she was laid off in Hollywood a couple years back. She has since started a business in the trades, which is how I was speaking with her, and went back to, she had a master's degree, but went back to community college to become a carpenter. And people were like, "What are you doing?" But she just felt like she wanted to do something different. And as I was saying earlier, she took that time to kind of take a break and she didn't have a lot of clutter because she had no mortgage, very few bills, so she could really take the time she needed to figure out what she wanted to do next. And after carpentry, now she's started a startup for young girls in the trades and is working with high school and early college girls. So I just think there are so many amazing opportunities out there. It's just getting in touch with yourself and figuring out what is next and not being afraid to pivot, whether you're in the corporate world or entrepreneurship.
Another word I would use for that is flexibility. Keep yourself flexible.
Yeah.
you know,
Right? Because how oftentimes, though, I think the two of you, right, really like we feel stuck because I've always been in this genre, or I've always been in this
Yep.
space, or I own all this stuff, or I have all this stuff. Like, this is what I know. Am I going to be brave enough to like to get rid of stuff, go do something completely random, completely different? But how freeing is, for both of these, both of your clients.
Yeah.
I can see that just you
It's the
lighting them up.
sunken cost fallacy. Like I've put so much time and money into this, I can't
Yeah.
do anything else. And I've had a lot of women say too, like, who am I to want something more? And I write about the why not me era in the book because why not you? Why is this not your time? Why can't you do it? Instead of saying, who am I to want more? And wearing the golden handcuffs or my family depends on me. I don't want to try to look for a new position, but they may be better off if you're happy and you're doing something you love. I think it weaves into every other part of your life.
and I think you recycle your skills too. I spent 20 years as a public relations consultant for international corporations from my high horse on Madison Avenue in New York City. And, hanging signs up and down Broadway on bus stops to promote my clutter business wasn't exactly what you would think of applying your marketing skills, but it worked and it enabled me to create a whole new business and a whole new world. Now, did I stop using my public relations skills? No. Those are skills I'm going to use forever. When I wrote my book and Lighten Up, Free Yourself from Clutter came out for the first time, my publisher handed me a few dollars and said, go do your own public relations. And I was like, what? I was able to, and I actually went beyond what I used to do up on my Madison Avenue office. I went around the world this time. I said, oh, well, why don't wherever they speak English, I can promote my books. So I went to England and I went back and forth across Australia. And
Fun.
I had a friend going to Japan, and I said, well, maybe you'll find somebody while you're over there. You can, give them a copy of my book and maybe they'll translate it and publish it there. And you know what? They did. So you can use your creativity and your imagination and your skills in one place, recycle them to another
Yeah,
place.
you're never starting over from with nothing,
Yeah.
right? You bring all of those skills and assets with you. I'm gonna bring Drina in. Drina, what was an action that created the momentum for you and why did it work?
Well, first I have to say that Michelle and Bryce and you, Angel, are way ahead of the game. I am catching up, and I have uh, the idea that my future is not going to be that long. And life does change for us, our mental status when we're in our 50s, the decade of the 50s and the 60s. And that's when I started. But I'm still slow. and I'm writing a new book that is going to come out to help teachers and parents. And I just called it Boredom and Frustration, Shut Down in Learning. And that's for parents as well, because when you have too much information coming at once, what you get frustrated and the kids don't know what to do. And I'm telling them there's a way, telling the teachers there's a way that you can just get rid of that frustration because we want you all in the instruction level and what to do when you're not. And when you get so bored, I imagine the three of you used to be very bored when teacher repeated things 5 and 6 times for those who needed it and how to get them there. So that was my turning point, I guess, that I just realized I can't retire yet.
You're such an inspiration. I mean, fast isn't necessarily, the best best thing. I mean, you're you're maybe slow and steady, but you're making a huge impact with people. And
Yeah.
it's such an inspiration for me to hear you say, the book you're writing. I mean, the idea is to keep engaged. I think to never stop being engaged, whether that's
Mhm.
fast or slow or sideways or upside down. It doesn't matter. You're engaged. And that's the thing that keeps you vibrant and alive. And that's what I'm promoting.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
I love
Michelle. The
that.
articulate Michelle. I like that. Yeah. And thank you, Angel, for having this panel type thing.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. A couple years ago, so I bring authors together, people who want to publish their book, and I do it. I have a collective where I do it in a group setting, and I had a group. I guess it was about 2 years ago, and six of the people in there were men in their 70s that were writing their first
Wow.
books, right? Like, so I'm just like we are like here, we're not retiring, we are not slowing down. There's still so much. There's still so much to give and to share. Drina, if somebody here is listening, they want to get involved with the Brave program, they want to make an impact, they want to help, save our youth. What is a move they should make first? What do you recommend that they do?
Well, I am on LinkedIn like Bryce is, and I imagine Michelle is too. You can contact me there. It's Grina. My last name is spelled like
Like
fried.
fried, like fried
Right.
chicken.
Right. So I
Right.
say I'd rather be freed than fried, and you would too. So that you can learn me there. There's also an end harm program I have as a Facebook page. But more, if you know teachers, if you know parents who want their young people, I think every young person age 10 to 17, although I would go forward and even after, should be a part of the anti-bullying program. And that you can learn more and you can get it there at www.thebraveprogram.com. And I won't be around, I would be your guide and you would be the heroes if you took your child or your classroom through this program.
I
It's
love
12
that.
modules. It's a 12 module program.
And is it meant for the educators and parents, or is it for the students?
Well, I made it for the students, but before that in the book and suicide and homicide, I made that for parents, teachers, and guardians. So interested parents are probably going to want to know what their kids are listening to, so they might want it too. And plus, they're the ones who it's affordable, but it's not free. So they are the ones who probably would be initiating it for their teenager
I love
or
it.
the teachers. Yeah.
Drina, I'm so glad you're here today. And you're such an inspiration to all of us women, all these different decades represented here. She's she's in her 80s and she's taking care of our youth in a way and just it's very brave. You are
Mhm.
leading by example. Thebraveprogram.com, thebraveprogram.com. Follow Drina, Dr. Drina Freed, Fried, fried, not freed. No,
Mhm.
she'd rather be freed, not fried, right?
That's right.
Might remember it that way,
We all would.
right? Um, how about
Hopefully thrive.
how about you, Bryce? If somebody wants to pivot or step into something bolder and braver than what they're feeling, they're feeling called to do something different. Just taking a page out of your playbook, what is a move that they should make next?
Yeah, the first bold move isn't to quit your job or blow up your life. I think it's to get radically honest, honest about what's draining you, what you're tolerating because it feels safe. Think about what you've outgrown because most people stay stuck because they're trying to think their way forward instead of telling their truth. So the bold move is to write it down, think about what's working, what's not, what you would change if fear and money weren't in the room, if you weren't thinking of all the shoulds. I had a coach early on that said, stop shoulding all over yourself. So stop thinking of all the shoulds. And then once you have that clarity, then you can make one aligned decision and just one. That one moves you closer to the life or the career that you want. And it can be the smallest baby step. And maybe it's that conversation you're avoiding, the boundary that you're not holding, or just asking someone else for support. I do think momentum doesn't come in these giant leaps, while that's great, but typically, it comes from courageous clarity and just following that consistent action. And Dr. Drina, I thank you for what you're doing. It's cool to see you working with the youth. And I have a teen and a tween, and you've got a hard job ahead of you with all these young people on social media. And then I'm working with like midlife people, and Michelle's working with 55 plus. So this has been a great mix.
Yeah,
It's always fun
multi-generational.
to see it how it gels together, right? And so I don't try to force it. I just know the right people that need to meet each other and be in each other's worlds will come together. Will come together for it. Michelle, somebody wanting to make a bigger dent in their closets, their garages, their attics, maybe spiritually, give themselves the freedom to be more flexible. What's one move that you would recommend they make first?
Well, I think changing your mind, the beliefs. In every category, whether it's health and fitness, memoir writing, finances, planning a funeral, or deciding where you're going to go on your next vacation, if you have a belief that doesn't serve the goal you're set out to, you know what? That's the clutter. So dump it. Just dump those beliefs. I can, I won't, a no can do attitude for anything is possible. And that's uh, only second to or first, it comes ahead of plan ahead. Think ahead and don't say, well, you know what, I'd rather just play golf today or I'll do it tomorrow. Take the plan ahead and take the steps now to move in the direction you want to be headed. So, I'm interested in having people be a part of my community. So I want them to go and connect with me through my website, www.decluttering55plus.com. And I want anybody who has a resource that would be good for my community to get in touch with me so that we can talk about ways in which we can partner to bring the message to the masses. So, if you have a resource that every buddy who's in the 55 baby boomer generation needs to know about. I want to learn along with my, you know, other folks. I'm part of them, so I want to learn with them. So tell me about, what you're doing or what you have available that can make a difference. So from both ends of the spectrum, we have to keep talking and learning. So start with the beliefs, plan ahead, and keep learning and doing.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for being a part of this incredible conversation today. I'm just going to recap for Michelle. It's decluttering55plus.com. For Dr. Drina Freed, it's thebraveprogram.com. And for Bryce, we have two, mycareercollective.com and brycebatts.com. And Bryce Batts is spelled Brycebatts
Yep, and it's .co, not
dot
.com.
dot co. Oh shoot, I broke it again. Thank you. We will, yeah, so now we will remember brycebatts.co, mycareercollective.com, thebraveprogram.com, and decluttering 55 plus. And I'm just so excited how this conversation came together. It's such a powerful reminder that no matter where we are, where we're at, like our message was meant to be shared. So if something inside of this story or any of their stories today resonated with you, tag somebody, share this episode with somebody who needs to hear it. And if you're an author, a speaker, a thought leader, you're ready to turn your story into influence leads and real momentum, make sure that you are subscribed to the Make Your Big Impact podcast so that you don't miss what's coming next. I'm Angel Tuccy, and until next time, remember your story isn't just powerful, it is meant to make a big impact. Cheers.